All right, so this is the first major grade. We did the 6 weeks. This is from the parallel and perpendicular test. So make sure you are working these problems on a separate sheet of paper and going through the questions that are in this ed puzzle. So this is problem number 1, where I ask you to find the slope of the graph below. And remember, to find our slope, we were looking for the change in y over the change in x. When you have a graph, though, you can find 2 points. You connect them with a little triangle. That change in y is the up and down change. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. We go up 4. And then we go to the left 1. That's our change in x. Positive 4 divided by negative 1 leaves us with negative 4. So our slope here is negative 4. So number 2, I asked you to write the equation of the line using the given information. And I want it to be perpendicular to y equals 1/5 x plus 6. So first thing, my original slope is 1/5. My perpendicular slope, remember we changed the sign, so it's going to go from positive, it's now going to be negative, and we're going to flip the numbers. So it's going to be negative 5 over 1, which is just negative 5. Now, in order to write an equation, we use something called point slope form. So y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. That m is that perpendicular slope that we have. The y1 and the x1 are actually going to come from the point that we're given. So I have y minus the y value, and my point is 3, is equal to my m, negative 5, times x minus the x value in my point, which is 2. And you just leave it like this. You don't have to change anything. It does not have to be y equals anything like that. Number 3 is very similar. I want you to write the equation of the line using the given information parallel to y equals negative 3x minus 2. So my original slope is negative 3. My parallel slope, nothing changes, it's the exact same, so it's also negative 3. We're going to use the point slope again. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Remember, we do y minus, we do the y value of the point we're given, which is 7, is equal to m, which is negative 3, times x minus, and our x1 is actually negative 1, so it's minus a negative 1. We have one more step here because of this minus a negative. When you have minus a negative in anything, it just changes to positive. So now it's going to be x plus 1 in parentheses. All right, so number 4 was a big thing that a lot of people missed, was finding the slope between 2 points. So when you're given your points, what I taught is you put them on top of each other. So 2, 6 and 5, 1. Now remember, our slope was that change in y over change in x. Your first numbers are your x values, and the second are your y values in your points. We're now going to look at that change. You want to think, how do you go from 6 to 1? And you subtract 5. So that is my change in y. So minus 5 goes on top. Then I do the same thing for the x's. How do I go from 2 to 5? And I add 3. So that's my change in x. That goes on the bottom of the fraction. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. And we just leave the numbers as 5 over 3. So your slope between these 2 points is negative 5 over 3. Number 5, you're finding the parallel slope between the points. So before you can find the parallel or perpendicular slope, you have to find that original slope. This does happen to be the same set of points from number 4. So our slope there was negative 5/3. Remember, for parallel slope, nothing changes. We don't change the sign. We don't flip the numbers. It stays the exact same. So our parallel slope is negative 5 over 3. Number 6, I'm asking you to find the perpendicular slope between the points. This is still the same set of points we've used, so we found its slope to be negative 5/3. Perpendicular slope is where we change stuff. We first change the signs, so it's going to go from a negative to a positive, and then we flip the numbers. So instead of 5 over 3, it's actually going to be 3 over 5, and that's our perpendicular slope. Now, number 7, I'm just asking you to write the equation. I give you the m, and you have the point. So remember, we're using that y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So I already have my m. I'm going to label my point with x1 and y1, just in case you're still a little confused. Nothing changes with this y. We leave it the same. Minus our y1 comes from the point, and it's 3. It's equal to the m we're given, which was 4. Times x minus x1 is 2 in that point, and you leave it just like this. Don't do anything else with it. Number 8 is just like number 7 where we're writing the equation. So I'm going to write that point slope again. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Remember that y stays the same, minus the y value of our point is -1. It's equal to m that I give you is -2 times x minus, and our x1 is also -1. We're almost done, but remember when you subtract a negative, it just changes to positive. So you have y plus 1 is equal to -2 times x plus 1. And this is it, you're done. 9 is just the same as 7 and 8. This is just something that I saw that we really need to practice on. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So again, the first y doesn't change. That minus y1 is the y value of our point, so minus 7 is equal to, I gave you the m, which is 1/4, times x minus our x value, which is 5, and this is your equation. And finally, we have number 10, so write the equation again. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. You're given this stuff on tests, benchmarks, finals, like that, so that's why I just wrote it out for you. If you don't have it, make sure you have it written. You should be pretty good at it right now. So y stays the same, minus my y value in my equation is 0, and it's equal to m -3/2 times x minus my x1 is -4. Now, I could leave it as y minus 0, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm just going to actually change it to y equals. You can leave that minus 0 if you really want to. -3/2 times x. Remember that minus a -4 is going to turn to plus 4. Here's your equation. If you only wanted to change that plus or the minus a negative to a plus and leave the minus 0, that would be fine too. So make sure you do answer all the questions throughout this video in order to receive credit. The highest you can get is a 70 now. There's no retakes, nothing like that. It's either you do it or you don't, and this has to be turned in by Wednesday at 5.